Hi everybody, this is Dr. Tufail. In today's class, we will talk about academic writings and what are the chief characteristics, features of academic writings. If you would recall last classes, I recorded one lecture on the basic characteristics and features of academic writing, in which we discussed that academic writing is a formal piece of writing that is more appropriate. It has certain features which makes academic writing um, that it is clear, it is concise, it's focused, it's structured, and is backed up by evidence. And its purpose is to aid readers' understanding. So, if you would look these some of the key characteristics of academic writings, in which we see that it should be clear, concise, focused, structured, backed up by evidence. In addition to, it should have a formal style, but it's not a complex in writing, but it's a tone and style is a formal, and doesn't require the use of long sentences and complicated vocabulary. That's keep in your mind. Most often, students write such a long sentences. Since such a long sentence, are their writing comprises long sentences. As a result, they fail to convey the piece of information to the reader, and the impact of writing is lost. So the sentences should be, as I mentioned, in a sentence writing, we have to just go with a simple and a compound and a complex sentence. And compound complex, some sentences long and others some short sentences that will produce a kind of a variety in your writing. So this subject, formal writing, though today we are not in a writing techniques, we have discussed that how we have gradually moved from penmanship to writing. Then we went to rule based writing. Then we went to process based writing. Then we went to genre based writing. And eventually we went to strategy based writing. So we have developed these all, we have discussed these all areas. So every genre, it has its specific requirement and it needs a particular pattern to be followed, and a relevant register are the number of, means selected vocabulary required for that specific genre. But if you will look at this as an academic writer, writing as a journal, then we have to follow those conventions and vocabulary and type of discourse that you will be familiar with over the course of your learning. So when you are going to deal with a specific subject, you need a specific requirement for that. That's all. So what are its characteristics? Yes, it is a planned and focused. Means it answers the questions and demonstrates an understanding of the subject. It is structured, is coherent, written in a logical order, and brings together related points and material. When we say that is structured, yes, it has both coherence and this cohesion. Cohesion takes place between the sentences and the paragraph when they have got a kind of a interconnected, used with the help of these discourse markers, discourse markers. But here we would use the signaling words, which develop a kind of a link between the sentences and the paragraph, and it should have a coherence in the sense that all the ideas they are coherently organized and connected so that the content material or the sense what you want to convey and develop, it is a logically developed. Then it should be evidence. Means in academic writings, whatever things we do, we just have prove it, support it, back up with certain documented proof, certain empirical evidences, certain studies, which support or back up with the plea and the argument or the premises what we level are established with the help of this academic writing. Apart from this, okay, there should be formal in the tone and style. Yes, of course, it's not an informal piece of writing. So these are the chief characteristics of academic writing. And when you move further, then the first thing is that, okay, you must keep bear in your mind that when you start writing, you must think that what you have, why are you studying that, writing that? What is the purpose of writing? That's very much important. So before writing, we must be clear that why I'm writing and what is the main objectives of this writing. And when you finish that writing, you must think that your objective has been acquired. Next thing is that structure of your work that's necessary. That when we just write, it needs a kind of a introduction, a structure, and in the form of essay. Again, it needs a kind of introduction, then main body, and the conclusion. If it is a report, then again it must begin with this introduction and the main contentions, ideas, premises, and they are logically developed in the main body paragraphs, and then you come up with a conclusion and summary of that thing. So. Uh, each paragraph should have an introductory sentence, then it should develop and it should have a conclusive sentence. This is how you just put all your material, your information, your ideas in a logical order, and you develop with the continuous theme, and that theme is supported by with the logical arguments, and finally you end with this thing. So it should have an introduction and the body and the conclusion. Apart from that, that they should be arranged in a logical orders. When you are writing your ideas, they must develop with the logical order, and this logical order may be from simple to complex, from complex to simple, from less important to more important. It may have an order of time, order of place, in order of this priority or importance. So these are the different way you can put the orders in your paragraph. And they should be logically ordered, and there must be a structured paragraph. Okay, what we say structured paragraph is that each point should be dealt with a different paragraph. Mixing up different ideas in one paragraph will not suffice the matter. Each paragraph needs one controlling idea, and each idea should completely be developed in a one paragraph. So when you are writing, you keep clear that you should have a structured paragraph, and each paragraph is going to focus or deal with the one aspect of the subject, and that first that subject is clearly announced or mentioned in the introductory sentence, and then that aspect has been uh, uh, comprehensively developed in the body of the paragraph and concluded by a single conclusive sentence. So when the essay has a three-part introduction, body, and the conclusion, so a good paragraph has a three-part introductory sentence or topic sentence, then it's a body development, then it's a conclusion. Then when you are writing, okay, in your then use signaling words. Okay, what are these signaling words? They just give you a kind of a connectivity, and they just connect your ideas from the previous argument, and they also show a kind of a specific uh, aspect to your writing. For example, if you want to add more information, you say furthermore, moreover, additionally, compared to similar points, then you say similarly or in comparison. Uh, when you want to show contrasting viewpoints, you can use however, in contrast, yet. So these signaling words, they really develop a logical connection in your writing, and they make it more comprehensible and comprehensive as well. So consequently, as a result, they show the conclusion, emphasis significantly, particularly, and reflect sequence, then first, second, finally. These are the signaling words, and if you would put these signaling words in your paragraph, that will make it more structured and more attractive. Here are the examples of these signaling words, that how they have been put in a sentence in order to connect this sentence with the previous sentence and to develop an overall impact that serves to the cause of writing and objective of writing. And then another thing, as we mentioned, that it should have a logical order, but it should have a clear evidence. Means whatever you are writing, it should be supported by certain evidence material. so that the argument what you are going to level, if it is supported by references, then the argument, then the content contention, or then the this plea and the point of view becomes more valid and appropriate. So how can you support your contention or your argument um, with the help of references? We have these four methods of using this method. Okay, you can paraphrase that somebody's quotations, you paraphrase in your words, and then you just mention this thing. Uh, Sometimes you use a summarizing, that is not a paraphrasing, is that when you just try to rewrite each idea in your words. But summarizing is that when we put the summary of that all and we just give the present it as an evidence. Synthesis is more advanced, is that after all, yeah, even after summarizing, we come to the upper level of this when we put all things together with a refined core and refined sense of logical connection. Then it becomes a kind of a synthesis. So this synthesis also helps to develop your arguments by presenting the synthesis of other famous writers. Or and other fourth method is like a quotation or quoting, in which we put direct quotes of writers, and then we move forward to aware our readers. Okay, and quotation is a kind of a technique which often writers use in essay, and nowadays it has become a bit trendy to begin an introductory paragraph of an essay with a quotation, and then establish the ground for the essay, and then end up with a thesis sentence, thesis statement, followed by body of that essay. So these are the four ways you can just synthesize. You can put your evidences, and the details of each is mentioned here. And then these things are they will help you. But when you are just going to take these things, okay, so get aware there. But there are certain areas when you paraphrase sometimes. It has its limitation of a paraphrasing, because in a paraphrasing we try to put the same ideas of the writer in own words, and with the same arguments what we want to convey. But the problem there sometimes, while paraphrasing, we take the regional ideas, we take the regional words, we take the regional vocabulary, and we try to put the many words or many regional ideas from the regional text. Then it doesn't fall into the category of a paraphrasing. So it has its pitfalls. When you are paraphrasing, then be clear that you are using your own words, you are not taking regional words, but at the same time, you are not going to change the actual context of actual contentions of the original arguments, because sometimes paraphrasing the writers completely changes the sense of the material which has been paraphrased. Summary has it has certain positivities, because in a summary we identify the relevant points of the idea or arguments depending on your purpose. Write a shortened versions if your own in your own words to show your understanding. Include an in-text citations in reference to the original author. So what you do in the text, okay, when you end, you just summarize the ideas of any writer, and in the end you just in a bracket you put that early 2014 page number 7. You mean that in Ali's book of 2000, which was published in 2007, on page number 14, he has just discussed these things. But what are the shortcomings, the pitfalls of summary writing? Is that arguments, but not explaining the significance to your own arguments. Sometimes what happens that writers, they only explain the arguments of the writers or the material they are going to put as an evidence, but they don't um, tie, or they don't put the connection of that arguments. That's very necessary, because you want to use this summary as a proof, as an evidence. So when you simply keep this and you move forward, you don't try to connect this with your arguments, then the putting this summary becomes irrelevant. Okay, so and sometimes there are so many details and that anecdotes and necessary backgrounds informations rather than being selectively applying the information to the questions you are trying to. Somebody's issue is that, okay, you come up with so many ideas which are not related to your study or your thesis or your contention. So you need to be careful about this thing, okay? And how to synthesize others' work, okay? Group sources into relevant categories, okay? For example, authors with similar viewpoints or research that reveals the same results. So nowadays we are moving forward to this level when we are trying to synthesize the subjects and writers. For example, uh, seven writers are writing about Badin's social conditions. So what we do, we put the work of these seven writers together, and then we find that what type of a common themes they are going to, what kind of issues they are going to address, and what kind of aspects of Badin they have focused. So overall, with the combinations of these seven, we come up with a synthesis, and that synthesis talks about Badin's problem. And you say that Badin presented in literature and the reality, and you go with the contrast of your argument. So this way, we can make a synthesis of, and then this also makes. But here again, you have to put the reference to all the writers or the books you are going to deal with, and it has its own limitations. So where these are things what we put for this referencing. And finally there's a clear, okay, use a clear and concise language. That is a very much important beauty of academic writing, that you need to be concise, clear, formal, and active, okay. Be concise. Don't try to put so many words, okay. Just be selective and use the limited words to convey your ideas. Only include one main ideas per sentence. Each sentence should have a one idea. We have already discussed this in a sentence writing. Keep your sentence to a reasonable length. He has mentioned 25 words. A long sentence can be difficult to follow, and this may distract from your point. Avoid repetition. That's very important. In a sentence is almost okay. If you have put one argument in a sentence, then don't do. Um, don't repeat the same argument in other sentence, and don't avoid long sentences. Be to the point, brief, and use one idea in a one sentence, and one paragraph should be unified, and it must refer to one controlling idea. And these type of words which have become a redundant, avoid this. Suppose use because instead of, due to the fact that, use alternatives instead of alternative choices. Use fundamentals, not basic fundamentals. Use concisely, not in as few words as possible. So these words which have become uh, redundant, avoid redundant vocabulary, and they use formal language. You know that academic writing basically is a formal pace of writing in which your style and tone are formal. Here you don't use a colloquialism. What's a colloquialism? The language what we use in a common in everyday life. क्या बे क्या करा है, दफा करो इसको, कोई कोई जरूरत नहीं है. These type of things and the slang terms and sort of are basically, instead you could use somewhat or fundamentally. So avoid these words, and don't you be colloquial. Don't use slang terms such as sort of. You can use somewhat, and basically you can use fundamentally. So these words could help you to become more formal in your language. And cliches are the words or phrases, some catchy phrases which the people have used over and over again. So they have become cliches. अब वो इतनी इस्तेमाल हुई है कि उनमें वो चीज़ जो है ना वो नहीं रही. So avoid that thing. Use blend of active and the passive verbs. When the things are active, then you use active verb. When the you are going to refer passive objects, then you may use passive verb. But active verb is a more preferable, and if you use active voice, that it would be more appropriate when you are going to and demonstrate a balance in your writing. What's a balance is that there this very beautiful skill of academic writing, what we call balance. And when you are going to demonstrate this balance in your writing, your argument should have certain hedges and boosters. Okay, what are hedges? When writing, be careful using words such as definitely and proves. So these are hedges. Okay, sometimes your argument is not completely conclusive, or you cannot authoritatively say something. In that situation, if you are using hedges, they can be quite uh, safe side we use, and we don't try to become, we don't overestimate or underestimate the things, and our presentation remains quite prudent and quite calculated. So if you say, if it is a proven that extra use of sugar causes diabetes, then you say that it has been proved. But if you think that it is partially suggested and research has not established, then if you write that it has been established and proved that extra sugar causes diabetes, then if it is not show, then the argument should be leveled like the studies suggest that extra sugar, so the study highlights that extra use of sugar causes diabetes. Here, your contention, your stance is a bit balanced, but it is not that much rigid and it needs. So this suggests it is possible that look at that he's not going to become rigid. A possible explanations of this thing. So again, he's not a rigid. Okay. Usually, sometimes, some words. Okay. So these things. But if they are above the research proves and suggests. These are two different stand. And when you say that it proves, means it's proved. Okay, now nobody can reject it. But when you suggest, here you find a room that maybe other studies suggest something different. So we have to be careful to explain the things. Sometimes we become so rigid and we become so conclusive that argument is not that much scientific and our stance is over calculated, and that irritates the examiners and readers as well. And then as you use hedges, you use boosters as well. These words boosters, they give you a kind of a clarity and a connectivity and a logical development. Suppose clearly only use if you are certain it is clear. It is clearly mentioned, or it is clearly observed. Or there is a strong correlation. Suppose it is confirmed that there is a strong correlation between the teachers and his teaching and the result of students. So then you can use these as this research suggests and research indicates. These are two different boosters, and they boost the actual actual sense what you want to develop. Okay, use the correct tense and voice. Yes, exactly. Only use first person voice in reflective writing, and use past tense to speak about your method, what you applied in your studies, and present tense to conclude or discuss established knowledge. Whenever you are using you are going to conclude or you are going to discuss established knowledge, means content, information, material, then you should use the present tense. This will be more logical, and whatever the arguments you are going to develop, you build your arguments with your logical supports and help, and there should be logical connections between the ideas, and the ideas which come in the first part of your argument, they in a sense must contribute and correlate with the other parts, other arguments mentioned in the later part. So it could have a logical developments, and structure your arguments in a proper way and develop your arguments like this. And these things would help you. So there are some examples how can you develop your arguments, and they will help you to make a wonderful academic writing. So here, hence we conclude this topic that academic writing, which are highly formal, clear, concise, focused, structured, backed up by evidence, and they are very plain and focused, and they have a structure, and they have a coherence, and the coherent, they have a logical order, and they are put in a paragraphs, and we use a formal language, we use active voice, and we use signaling words, and we use hedges and boosters, and they are formal in tone and style, and we support our arguments with the help of certain references and background knowledge, with the help of either direct quotations, or there are summaries, or there are paraphrasing, or there are synthesis. By employing these techniques, we can simply use to give evidence to your paragraph. So this is a more scientific way of engaging in this academic writing. And if you would take care of these all aspects when you are writing, this would aid significantly to your writing. Thank you very much. See you in next class. Till that, bye. Take care.